Should you spend $50 of your hard-earned cash on the recent PC release of Red Dead Redemption 1? Well, as always, I'm going to be brutally honest here and probably say some things other videos won't address. Before we dive into the harsh truth and whether it's worth your time and the price tag, let's first look at the improvements and things you need to know about this release. So stick with me. PC players who have been waiting to play Red Dead Redemption 1 since the beginning are pretty much retired now and hunched over like a cat chucking up. 14 years later, it's finally here. But look at this! Christ, I hope these retired PC players are on good pensions. With the atrocious pricing aside, we will talk about that later in the video. There is one huge reason to get this on PC, aside from the fact you can play it up to 140 FPS, it's finally native 4K, along with HDR10 support, and that is the mods, which, let's be real, can literally transform a game and can be the sole reason to purchase it on PC over console. There are so many examples of games that are so much better with mods. However, mods can only take a game so far, and I'm sure there is a burning question in your head that hasn't been addressed just yet. With absolutely no gameplay changes or improvements to its actual game mechanics since it came out back in 2010, does Red Dead Redemption 1 still hold up? Or does it feel dated 14 years later? So it's kind of crazy to me. If you had this on Xbox, it was never possible to play this above 30 FPS until now. Playing this game at a higher FPS does help make this feel more in line with games releasing now. And don't get me wrong, finally playing Red Dead Redemption 1 at a buttery smooth FPS that doesn't feel like a god to crud slideshow like on the Xbox is great. But I'd expect my bollocks to be massaged too for this damn price. And don't worry, we're getting onto this. The overall graphics do also look slightly better, purely because I'm playing at native 4K, which we've never been able to do before, but it's really nothing groundbreaking. So with the visuals being virtually unchanged aside from the FPS, what about the actual gameplay mechanics? Do they feel dated? Also, the amount of you watching who are subscribed is still lower than a worm's tit. If you could spare 1.2 seconds to subscribe, it would mean a hell of a lot, but back to it. So the gunplay does feel less refined when compared to Red Dead Redemption 2, which is to be expected. But even in 2024, it's still satisfying, and the cover system does what it needs to do without causing too many bangs on the desk. Caning 89 bullets into a bunch of enemies during Deadeye like John Wick on crack never gets old. But the same can't be said about horse riding. As we all know, you'll be riding a horse for the majority of your time in this game, and sadly, it can be hit or miss. Horses at times feel like they have a mind of their own and seem to take up cliff jumping as a hobby. It certainly feels clunky at times and frustrating. Not sure why, but sometimes it feels like you have complete control over this big cocked cretin, and other times it feels like you have no control at all. It's not awful, but the horse riding does feel a tad dated when compared to other aspects of this game, and the animations do look a bit off. It literally looks like I'm riding quicker than a Bugatti Veyron here. However, the story, Jesus Christ, it's still as good as I remember and will be the main reason for picking up this game again. It's just immense and makes you forget about these brain-dead goblins. It will take a very long time until the story begins to feel dated, and it's one major reason to revisit this game again 14 years later. But there is a huge game mode in Red Dead Redemption 1 we haven't spoken about yet. 2 words: Undead Nightmare. Although any attempt of something rising through your pants instantly diminishes when you realise you can buy it for less than a bed slat on eBay. But don't worry, we're getting to this. Nonetheless, this mode shouldn't be forgotten about and was one of my favourite DLCs of all time back in the day. So in terms of how Undead Nightmare holds up now, you can expect much of the same when it comes to the horse riding and gunplay. But this time, you're twatting a load of the undead whilst witnessing a wacky and comedic story that doesn't take itself too seriously. This was back when Rockstar actually cared about making story mode DLCs instead of just milking the online mode harder than your dick in the morning morning. If you never had the chance to play this, now is your chance, and I would highly recommend checking it out after playing the main story. However, don't give Rockstar too much credit. You might be thinking, why did they include the Undead Nightmare mode with this PC release? Maybe it's because they feel bad for completely canning the online mode despite it still being active 14 years later over on the Xbox. Make sure to check out my video after this one to see just how good it is. Yep, sorry PC players, you don't get to experience the online mode. Suck out! So regardless of anything I've said so far, there is one huge dumpy elephant in the room stinking of piss that we can't just ignore. And I don't even know why I'm surprised anymore. The god to crud price. Is this now going to be the norm, where games that were released 14 years ago get ported over to a new system with basically nothing done to it and demand a $50 price tag? We must call out and acknowledge the absolute greed and daylight robbery the gaming industry is becoming. I hate the feeling like I've just been robbed like the silly bastards who buy a full god to hell meal and popcorn at the cinema, and I'm sure you do too. I know most of you watching are in the same boat here and can see why it's such an issue, but if Rockstar cock riders carry on spreading their joy and wet dreams over spending $50 on a 14-year-old game, we're in trouble, because other game developers are going to catch on and it's just going to be a thing going forward. And I don't know about you, but I don't really fancy being bankrupt in the next 5 years, having to spend $50 on decade-old games. So with my moaning like a brothel on a Saturday night aside, what is my full honest verdict? Is Red Dead Redemption 1 on PC worth playing? Look, if you've only owned the PC and not had the chance to play this on console, I totally get it. You're probably inclined to buy this as you've never had the privilege of playing this legendary game. But please do me a favour, try your god to hell best to not pay $50 for it. Try and get it on sale or use any other method of getting it. There is no way this warrants a $50 price tag. Maybe if they gave it a little visual remaster, kept the online mode and added a few new guns and horses, I'd say flip it, it's worth it. But the literal only god to hell thing that makes this release somewhat worthy of your cash is the mods. But that's purely because of the amazing modding community. It's nothing to do with Rockstar, and they still sue the modders for Christ's sake. Jesus, I'd rather give the modders my $50. Overall, it's a gigantic flip you to PC players waiting 14 years for a game, removing features like the online mode, and still having to spend the full price on it, despite it selling for just a couple of bucks on eBay. And I wouldn't be surprised if Rockstar made it in the Guinness Book of Records for the best shit-slinging and daylight robbery ever committed. But do let me know your honest thoughts in the comments, and do you hate the greediness as much as I do? I'd love to know. And if you are a PC user who never got to play this game, let me know in the comments too. I'd love to know your point of view on this. And to find out what Red Dead Redemption 1 online is like in 2024 and what you've missed out on, you're definitely going to want to see this. Just click the card on screen to see that video. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll see you next time.